Hi, interns, and welcome to day 5 of our Project Search virtual lessons here. As we move into week 2, I wanted to go ahead and remind you guys to focus on the good things going on. I know right now, as we move into our second week of being in our houses, there's a lot of stress and anxiety going around that, and I know a lot of adults right now are feeling it, and so just a great way to help out those in your family is just stay positive, help out any way you can, and just be thankful for those little things that we take for granted, our family and our health. If you have those things, those are good things, and be thankful for that. And that'll just help us as we continue through this trying time to keep our spirits up and to be there as well for our families. So I'm going to jump right into day 5. My good news today is my own copy of A Teen's Guide to Finding a Job came in. So thankful for Amazon and people out there who are delivering packages right now. And also, so I don't have to guess what page I'm on anymore reading off the computer screen. So that's my good news for today. But I'll go ahead and jump right into day 5 is where we are. So right there, we're going to begin chapter 3 today, pages 39 through 52. We're going to read those, and then we're going to complete one sample job application. And then, of course, don't forget that employability log, which I'll remind you of at the end. So thank you all for sending me those videos. They made me just so happy seeing your face. But also, you guys did such a great job, those of you who sent them to me already. And if you haven't, plenty of time, feel free to do so when you can. But the ones that I've seen are awesome. You guys did such a great job. I know chapter 2 is a little confusing with all the research, and it's like, Ms. Carr, I can't reach out to any employers right now, with everything being on hold, and I get that. So I appreciate you guys going along with that. That was kind of an unconventional, not something I would typically assign for interns, so I really appreciate you guys being flexible and being willing to try new things. I think you guys did an awesome job, so really proud of you. And I have good news too. Chapter 3 is a bit more straightforward. We're going to be working on applications. So this is something we've, of course, talked about before, but it's also going to be a bit more straightforward as well. And I think you'll a bit more in our comfort zone. So we're going to begin reading here, chapter 3, the employment application process. So we'll be completing sample applications today and tomorrow, and really just in general talking about that whole process and what that looks like. So if you can join me here on page 39, our character in this chapter is Nikki, which we all have our own Nikki, so that's fun. So on page 40 here, starting with Nikki. Nikki is 15 years old, is looking for summer employment. Because it's her first time completing an employment application, she wasn't sure how to properly complete it. Nikki has many unanswered questions, such as, what are the requirements for a work permit? So again, Nikki's 15, not our Nikki, the book's Nikki. We're all 18 and above, so work permits don't really apply. But when you're of a younger age, 15, 14, 16, there might be some restrictions on those work hours. So that's what that work permit's talking about. That's not really going to apply to all of us. How should she describe her work experiences since she's never worked before? That's a great question for a lot of us. How should she locate current addresses, telephone numbers of individuals she has done various jobs for as a teenager? So Nikki has some really good questions here that we're going to talk about. So for help, she visited the Career Resource Center in her local community. Nikki explained to the counselor there that she wants to earn money to pay for summer entertainment, save for upcoming school events such as prom, school dances, and sporting events, and pay for college application fees. So we have different reasons we want to make money, right? So those are just a few of Nikki's, and they may not be your reasons, but we all have things we want to buy and save up for and do, even if it's just helping out the family. All right, so the counselor walked her step by step through the proper way to complete an employment application. Then she suggested Nikki download the free practice employment application packet at www.newbeginning.com. Nikki felt more confident after the visit and set off to find more information on the recommended website. She completed and submitted the application to the manager of the local shopping center. Fortunately, she was hired on the spot. Wow. So we're going to figure out, we're going to try to think about what did Nikki do here in her application process to get hired like that on the spot. And then also going back to, there are free employment application websites too that we can do online. I'll talk more about that later in the chapter. But I'm going to continue here to overview. The employment application is your tool to make a good first impression. You want the employer to know you have the skills, experience, and achievements to do the job you're applying for, which you as search interns really do have that skills and experience. We want to definitely highlight that on these applications. The employment application is the avenue you'll use to get that information to the employer. Your chances of making a good impression on the application will improve by being aware of its appearance, content, and validity. It means the things that you put in your application are true. We're not wanting to put any information in there that isn't, and we'll talk again more about that. So when we're talking about the appearance, we're not talking about you. Also, you would want a good appearance when picking up and dropping off applications, but they're actually talking about the appearance of the application, the piece of paper itself, and how that's important. So the employment application process is highly critical, that means important, to your job search. It begins when you enter the employer's place of business to request an application and hopefully ends in an interview. The employment application links you with the employer as your first formal introduction. Remember, first impressions are based on the information listed on your application as well as how you present this application. A good employment application will get you to that next step, the interview. The goal. Employers screen candidates, that means they look through different applications before the interviewing process even begins. And that's why it's just so important that our application is completed correctly, neatly, and that we just take our time in completing them. How you complete the application tells the employer many things about you. For instance, leaving blank areas blank leaves the impression you didn't read the entire application. It may lead the employer to believe you'd rush through your work or not complete tasks or assignments. So really what the book's saying here is this application, and I'll throw up the sample I'm going to go through. This application is your first impression you give to an employer. So if we're not reading the directions carefully, and if we're just kind of rushing through it and it's kind of sloppy, then, that's going to lead that employer to think, man, they didn't really take time to, give me a good quality of work. So maybe when I hired them and asked them to do things, maybe they're going to rush through that too. So it's really your first kind of test or quiz on, how well we follow those instructions and how good our work is that we're presenting. And we all know how important that is. So also avoid scratching out information when making a mistake. You don't want to leave a sloppy appearance. It may imply that you are not a conscientious, that means like an aware worker, that your work or appearance isn't important to you. So tip, if there's not enough space in the block on your application form, use a clean sheet of paper to continue your answer. Be sure to list the block number for your information, where the information refers to, and attach the paper to your application. So I've never done this, but there's going to be sections in our applications that if you need to continue with an explanation for a certain question, then you can continue that on a blank sheet of paper. And I know some of us, I personally struggle really writing smaller, but that's something that we're just really going to have to be aware of and really try to do here on these applications as well. But again, they're just saying use that extra sheet of paper if you need. And really not scratching out things on the application because we're completing these in pen. If you do it in pencil today, that's fine. But as we are doing them in real life, we're gonna be doing these in pen. Well, typically you can't erase pen. I know there's some fancy ones out there. But typically you can't erase with a pen, and you don't really want to leave a bunch of scribbles or white out on your application. That's why my tip is to always tell my Oh, sorry, I have a cat trying to destroy a bag over here. Anyway, sorry about that. So, but what I was saying is when you go to pick up that application, go ahead and try to ask for two. If you're going to a job and you're asking for the application, and they have paper ones, you can ask them for two, and that's totally appropriate. I've done that before when I was younger, and that just helps in case you do make a mistake. You can just use a whole nother blank application to do it the next time. So that's my tip that I use as well. Of course, I know a lot of applications now aren't like they were when I was your age trying to find a job. I know a lot are online. So those are great because you can complete those and not have to worry so much about the writing and making mistakes like that, because you could just delete your mistakes on an on an online application. So we're going to continue here on page 41, employment application at the bottom. Excuse me. All right. Because both the content and appearance of your employment application determine if an employer gives you an interview, pay close attention to the information in this chapter. So again, it's just talking about how not only the information we're putting in the application, but the appearance of it, how that's just super important to that employer, and we want to make sure that they look good. So moving on to page 42 here, I'm just going to start by saying the reason I gave you guys 3 different sample applications in your packet is because I want you guys to understand that not all applications are the same. They really are not. They all look quite different. Some ask for different questions that others didn't ask for. So they're not going to be one and the same. They're going to be very different. So that's why we want to get a lot of practice with different ones. However, the application does have some similar components, some similar questions that each will ask, and that's what they're talking about here on page 42 at the very top. The application typically covers 4 important points for the employer. Who you are. So that's going to be your personal information, name, address, contact. It's important that you give correct information in that area because that's how they're going to contact you. So you want to make sure you're giving a good contact number there. They'll typically ask you what your present or past work experiences are and what you can do and your potential for growth. And when you're available to start the job, that's a typical one as well, number 4 there. They want to know when you're available to hire. Do you need 2 weeks to, put in for your current job? Or, are you available to work, right now if needed? So that's important as well to know that, right now I'm in project search, so I'm doing that throughout the day, and just kind of keep track of knowing when you are available. So I'm going to keep going here, page 42. As a teen, you can demonstrate your experience and growth and your growth potential in a variety of ways. You have acquired skills and experience from home, school, church, and community service. Participation in sports and other organizations also shows many facets of your work self, as well as your ability to lead and be a valuable team player. Your aptitude for learning and growth will be portrayed by your current educational level and your future plans. So really right there, it's just talking about, don't worry if you're like, well, Ms. Carr, this application is going to be a lot of fun. I'm just going to put my name on it and that's it because I don't have any work experience. But think about it. You guys do. We wrote those resumes and, they all look fantastic. And with Project Search, you guys have, been involved in a really great program that has allowed you to gain a lot of work skills. So we're going to highlight that in different ways, with also highlighting other things that are on your resume other than Project Search. So as I mentioned, that is actually something, your resume, that's something you're going to want to have in front of you today. So pull that out of your file, because that is going to help you tremendously in doing our employment application. I'm going to continue reading, so I'll give you a chance to pull that out later, but we'll definitely, now that I think about it, we'll definitely want to use those resumes. Okay. It's like the second paragraph. Many companies on page 42, like right in the middle. Many companies require you to complete their employment application because it is a legal document that can be upheld in court. Once you sign and date this application, you state that everything is true. You can be fired from a job if it's found that you lied on an application. So what the book's referring to right there, I'll go ahead and show you on the application we're going to do today. But right at the bottom, they always have a signature and date. That's another common feature that all applications, even if they look different, that's another feature that they're going to have on there as well. And that's just because they want to make sure, if you say you're a project search, were you? Did you get that district credential from your high school? And they just want to make sure, are these references people you know? And they just want to make sure everything you're putting on this application is true. That's why it's very important that the information that we put on there is true. There's no reason to put something that's not true on there. You guys have great work experiences and potential for growth. So there's no reason for us to put false information on there. So just make sure we're not, making job experiences up. This is stuff we have done, not stuff we want to do. That's on this application. All right, you'll be required to complete many of your applications online, which means carefully proofreading your application. That means what we did with our resumes, like going over it and over it, making sure it was perfect, the formatting and spelling and all that stuff. You'll want to definitely proofread it and go over your application just like we did with those resumes. Be sure to attach any supporting documents requested, such as letters of recommendation, school transcripts, and references. So letters of recommendation are things that references. We haven't really talked about references yet, and we will here in the upcoming days. But references are adults that can speak to your work ethic, that have seen you work. And I'm giving you a list of references today for you to use, but those letters also could come from references as well. So last paragraph here on page 42, a behavior profile or questionnaire is sometimes part of the application process. This profile usually involves a series of questions about how you might relate to others, how you relate to others, and how you might respond to a particular situation. As with the self-assessment, similar questions may appear in several areas of the questionnaire with slightly different wording. The combined responses help establish your personality profile, so be honest and consistent with your responses. Okay, so about that. We're doing paper applications right now, but if you're doing an online application, don't be surprised if you complete the application information that we're going to go over today, and then you have to take a self-assessment type questionnaire and answer a lot of different questions. Don't be surprised. They have a lot of those when you do online applications. I'll go ahead and share an experience I had when I was a teenager and younger than you guys. I think I was like 17, but I applied for a job at Best Buy, and they had a computer there, and they wanted me to fill out the application there online. And I had to answer several questions just with like pretend scenarios, and they would give me options, and I had to choose an option. So it's almost kind of like a little online quiz. So I had to read it carefully and take my time. And I remember one of the questions, it's kind of like this. One of the questions asked me if I got home and realized that I took a pen accidentally from the store, would I keep the pen, return the pen? Of course, they wanted me to return the pen, not steal their pen. So they're going to be kind of questions like that. And so I know one of our interns, we just recently completed an online application with Miss Cooper Nesmith, and I think it had like 120 of those type questions with like guest scenarios. So again, those online applications can have a lot of different questionnaires attached to those. So just a heads up on that. All right, moving on here. Again, the application at the top of page 43. Again, the application is the employer's first look at who you are. So make a good impression. So we're going to continue on here. Let me see. We're going to page 52. We're going to go into talking about personal appearance. And even though when you're picking up the application, you're not interviewing right there, you are presenting yourself to an employer and coworkers, possible coworkers. So you want to make sure you are dressed appropriately to go pick up those applications if you'll be doing so in person. So let's talk about personal appearance here on page 43. This is my Beauty and the Beast cup, by the way. It's one of my treasured gifts from an assistant teacher at Wando. It's hard to be a beauty when the mornings are such a beast. Okay, get back to it, Miss Carr. All right. Personal appearance. The application and your physical appearance reveal many things to the employer. When you walk into the company's place of business to pick up the employment application, people already begin to form opinions about you. Just like we do with other people. You know, if someone came into Embassy Suites and, asked Cameron at the guest services, do you guys have an application? Cameron would look at what they're wearing and think about what I want to work with this person. So when you ask for that application, people are going to be suddenly more interested in you because they're feeling you out. So they want to know who you are, how you heard about the job opening, whether you're qualified, and most important, how you will fit in. So despite qualifications and education and stuff like that, employers and the people that are working there just want someone who's going to fit in and be that team player. They're sizing you up, and that's what that all is. So specifically, impressions are formed based on how you are dressed, the way you talk, and even how you walk. So remember, just hold that confidence in, making eye contact, smiling to others, and greeting them goes a long way. Therefore, when picking up the employment application, be sure to dress appropriately. Give special attention to your personal hygiene. Use deodorant and use perfumes and colognes conservatively. That means don't use much. You don't want to go in there, super smelly. I'm sure whatever cologne you have and perfume smells fantastic, but that's not what you want that first impression to be about. Just make sure we're clean, we look good, we feel confident, we look confident. This isn't really an issue for us, but maybe in the future. Cover or camouflage any tattoos. If you have someday, I know this isn't a thing right now, but if there ever was a tattoo on your arm, you might want to wear long sleeves to cover that up for this professional outing. And make sure to wash and style your hair and make sure your clothes are clean, neatly pressed, and suitable. Also, I'll go to piercings. If you have any facial piercings, nose, or anything like that, you might want to leave those at home for picking up job applications. And I know that wearing all these things and wearing our clothes, it is our personal identity. I mean, you guys have some of the best Jurassic Park and Star Wars t-shirts I've ever seen out there, but that's just not the time to show that individuality off. We just want to look very professional, even though those t-shirts are awesome. All right, continuing here on page 43, remember it's not appropriate. Remember, it's not appropriate to wear casual clothing such as baggy pants, t-shirts, mini dresses, shorts, or even sleeveless clothing. I think those are good examples that apply to both genders, guys and girls. Any one of these things can create an unprofessional image. So that's just one thing you can do, is just make sure you're dressing appropriately for this. What do you want to earn with your clothing? The answer, respect. R-E-S-P-C-T. More than that, you want to be chosen on your skills, not turned away because of inappropriate clothing. So just our clothing is just a really easy check we can do by just dressing professionally, like you do every day when you guys, went to the hotel for project search. It's important to use proper English and absolutely no slang. Make sure the way you walk radiates confidence. Hold your head up and be proud. Give a firm handshake and make direct eye contact. Ensure your completed application form is neat without scratch outs or eraser marks. Don't fold or bend it. So I'm bending my book right now. We don't want to do that to our application. So one thing, and I told you guys I'm a huge fan of this, but you all got one with your packet. So even these file folders, you can put your application in it, and you can keep it, very nice and straight. That's going to come off really professional. That's going to be really, really professional looking, very impressive to an employer. So I would advise maybe hold on to the folder that I gave you for the packet for that. Also, to keep your resume in, remember we didn't want to bend or fold those resumes either. If you don't have a folder, the trick I use is I kind of hold it like a little burrito like that. I'm able to bend it, but I'm not putting a crease in it. So you might want to hold it like that, or you can just hold it flat. So just make sure you're not like bending it up. All right. At the very bottom of page 43, all of these details create a representation of you on paper that is both pleasing to the eye and easy to read. All right. So we are going to actually stop. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I had us going to page 52, and I really don't want us to. But I'm going to stick with my plans. Okay, here we go. Moving on to page 44. Sorry about that. The content, excuse me. Content of the application. Before you begin filling out the employment application, read it over. Then carefully follow the directions. Print neatly using an erasable black or blue pen. Never leave any of the blocks blank. If a block doesn't apply to you, write NA, and NA stands for not applicable. That means it doesn't apply to you. And we'll go over that. We'll go over how on some of these blocks we're writing none, and then some we're writing NA. Those mean two different things. None is you're answering the question, you just have none, but NA means this question doesn't apply to me. So we'll go over that as well. You do that to acknowledge you read that section so the employer won't think you just left something blank or overlooked it. We just don't want to leave any blanks. Use powerful action words to describe your skills and accomplishments. Action words also help you make a positive impression as you paint a clear picture of what you can do for the employer. That means thinking in terms of how the employer thinks, which is, what's in it for me question. Show your accomplishments along with the results and benefits of those accomplishments. Portray yourself, so show yourself as a problem solver who's eager to meet challenges. Example of power word usage. So do not say or write on your application or resume something like, I finished the following jobs. What we would say instead is, my accomplishments are blank, which resulted in blank. And there's actually a sample word list later in chapter 3, in this chapter. So again, I'll just add along to that. We want to be positive when we're interacting with these employers, dropping off this application and going through this process. You're not putting yourself down. There's no need for that. You guys have the skills to get these jobs that we're applying for. So, instead of saying, oh, I can't do that, you could respond and say, well, I don't have experience with that specifically, but I'd be excited to learn. So just keep it positive too in these interactions. Validity of the application at the bottom of page 44. Never lie on the application, and I just talked about that. It is grounds for dismissal. That means to be fired or to not be considered for the job. Most important, being dishonest is perceived as a character flaw. So it's just people who are dishonest, that's not a good character trait or habit that's been formed. When completing an employment application, always consider the big picture effects. Think in terms of what you did, how you did it, and what you accomplished as it relates to the job you're applying for. Also think in terms of how your skills and accomplishments can be reinvented in a way so that you can be of value in different jobs. This mindset will enable you to express in writing exactly what you want the employer to know about your skills, talents, and abilities. It will also help you conduct a successful interview. You will be able to provide a clear picture to the employer of what you can do for the company based on your skills and past experiences. Keep in mind that as a teen, your past experiences can include many things beside formal work experience. And we've highlighted that on your resumes as well. So don't discount your experience as a team member, organization, or participant, non-paid employee, babysitting, lawn care, and volunteer work. That can all be used and cited in your application and on those resumes as we already have. So we're going to keep going here, completing an employment application, and review some of these sections that we are actually going to complete today in our sample. I know the book has a sample application form here on page 51. It's a little small, but that's what they're going to be referring to a lot of the time as we go through these different parts. You don't have to complete this one. I would recommend you not until we complete some of these others. So you can just go ahead and leave this blank, but if you want to put your finger there as I continue to read and just kind of keep looking back and forth at what I'm talking about, feel free to do that. So, complete an employment application. Listed here are the common information blocks found on most applications. Read them carefully. Under each block is a description of the importance of the question and how you should answer. So applicant information, remember we said the personal information block is going to be a common one. It's also commonly going to be the first questions that you answer. So having that resume with your address and contact information is going to be very helpful for that first section. So it's typically including the applicant information includes last name, first name, middle initial. Pay attention to the order of the name blocks, and order often varies from application to application. So I'll just show you with our application that we're going to do today. At the very beginning, and this is our sample application that's in your packet, so this is what we're going to be doing a little bit. But at the beginning, man, if I didn't read, I would have just put my name, my first name right here. But ooh, what does it say? It wants my last name. So I had my last name, then my first name, and then my middle. And we'll talk about the difference between middle and middle initial. All right, moving on. Block 2, a date. So they'll ask you to list the date in which you are submitting the employment application after you complete it. Otherwise, list the date you'll complete it. It also typically has that right there at the signature page as well. And that's just so they can keep up with, oh, how long ago did this person apply? In the personal information block, it'll also ask you on page 46, very top, your block 3, street address. List the addresses where you receive mail. If you have an apartment unit number, be sure to also include that. Block 4, city, state, and zip. Spell these correctly, and don't forget to list the zip code. Double check all of these for accuracy. And also spell them correctly, but also we want to make sure, guys, we're also capitalizing the names of streets that we live on and that information there, the city, and all that stuff there. So we'll go over that, but I would say make sure you're spelling, but also capitalizing too. Block 5, phone number. List a telephone number where you'll receive messages. Make sure the area code is listed. If you have a cell phone, the norm, or most of you guys do, make sure your voice message sounds professional so that if someone does call you back and says, hey, I'd love to interview you, it's not an unprofessional voicemail. Get rid of any long messages, radical music, and casual, offensive, or vulgar language. I don't think that's a problem for any of you guys, but just keep that in mind. Your email address, block 6. Be sure that your email address is unique and has a professional tone. If you don't have one, create a free email address with different websites, Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail. Of course, we've already created our own personal Gmail accounts, so that information is listed on your resume. They all are professional, so we'll use those for these applications as well. Date available, list immediately or actual date that you completed the application. If you have a current employer, make sure you give them a 2-week notice. That's typical. If you're going to leave a job, you would let that employer know 2 weeks in advance, and that's called a 2-week notice. So you would put on that application 2 weeks from the date you're completing it, which is standard minimum. Take this time to finish up work in progress, hand off project, and be available to answer questions. Also, know that the status of today's economy and job market has caused a new trend. Now employees are giving a 1-week notice to prevent from being passed over for a better opportunity. Therefore, use your best judgment, and remember, you may need to reference from that employer, so make sure you leave on a positive note. Besides, it will show both new and old employers that you're a person of good character, one who honors commitments and takes responsibility for your actions. We're going to talk about this in later chapters, but how you would leave a job and what that resignation letter would look like. But again, just for right now, just keep in mind, if you do have a job, it would be 2 weeks that you would give that employer a notice. And you would still continue to have that hard work ethic, do those jobs, complete those jobs really well, and leave that job on a good note, because it's typical that that employer will now become somebody who could be a reference potentially, but also someone you want to speak positively about you. So leave on a good note. Block 8, Social Security number. This is private information. Always have your Social Security card with you, or know that number when filling out applications as proof of identity when required. You'll use your Social Security number all your life to keep track of your medical care and employment taxes you pay into the Social Security system. It will be used to calculate retirement, disability, and eligibility of death benefits to you. Do not guess. So your Social Security number is very important, private information. We don't share it with anybody. Probably a parent has your Social Security card, and maybe you know it by heart too. That's great. So just don't guess. Don't be like, oh, leave it blank, or just like make up a number. That's not good. That would be lying on that application that we talked about. So do not guess. Make certain the number you write on the application form is correct. Block 9, desired salary. List open or negotiable unless you're familiar with the salary range or wages paid for that job. Be realistic. Know the value of your skills and what employers are paying for them. Also know what the minimum wage is and become familiar with both commission and tip-based salary structures. So for salary desired, we all hopefully know what the federal minimum wage is. Yes, $7.25, correct. Which I know we all knew that, right? So $7.25 is the federal minimum wage. However, with your participation in Project Search, I would value everybody's skills at a little higher than the minimum wage. I would love to see Project Search's goal is for their interns to make above the federal minimum wage. So I think an $8 an hour is appropriate for most of us. Now, I know some of us do have job experience, so you're going to have to look on your paycheck. See, what is your pay of rate right now? What's that hourly pay? And you never want to go below what you were making. So that's kind of always like your baseline. Like if you made $8.75 an hour, working at a grocery store, then you'd want to put $8.75. And your reasoning for that is because that's what your skills are valued at. So you're always hopefully going up. All right, moving on. Block 10, I'm really trying to make this video less than an hour because I know I've been making them super long for you guys, so trying to get it in here. Block 10, position applied for. Use the job title and employer used or what is listed on the source you are responding to. Example, a job announcement, online or newspaper ad, bulletin. So the position you're applying for, that job title. Block 11, are you a citizen of the United States? Yes. Most of you, all of you, yep, were born here in the United States, so that automatically makes you a U.S. citizen. So if not, then you have to list that information there that shows you're eligible. Block 12, have you ever worked for this company? Be honest. This gives your employer an opportunity to gather history and find out whether to rehire you. Your previous job performance may be the deciding factor. So they'll ask you, have you worked for this company before? Most likely the answer is going to be no. But if yes, then, you'll want to say yes and be honest about that. Here's another fun question that sometimes we answer incorrectly. But block 13, have you ever been convicted of a felony? A felony, guys, is a serious crime that was so serious that meant that you spent time in jail. None of us in Project Search did, so everyone really would want to check no to that. I've had students in the past check yes to felonies. No, don't answer something like that if that hasn't happened to you. So when that box is checked yes, many employers then follow up during interviews with criminal background checks to gather more information on that conviction. So it's important to determine if it disqualifies you based on the specific requirements of the job you're applying for. Be sure to ask. Again, for all of us, that's no. You're not spent time in jail, 2 weeks in jail, you're saying no. Okay, education. Block 14. So education, your high school. Typically that's what they're going to ask for. They're going to ask for your elementary school. Correctly spell the name of the school you attended and list the address. Always show the month and the year using double digits, such as 01/13. So a lot of the dates you'll see on our applications, we are just using those numbers for those months. Unless the format requires a different style. Answer the "Did you graduate?" question by checking the appropriate block in the degree block. List the correct title of what you earned. So it was a diploma. We did a district certificate, which is I push for that it is a equivalent to a high school diploma because you guys did complete work hours, those career readiness classes. So we did earn a district credential, and you'll see that on the sample I'm about to show you here. Previous employment. This is going to be either a really short section for you or a long section. So employment history. Spell out the company or company's full name. Don't use abbreviations. Use the current address and telephone number, including the area code. List your previous supervisor's first and last names, as well as your past job title. When listing a previous supervisor, use Mr. or Miss. Always show the month and year using digits. Make a positive statement when listing your reason for leaving. And describe your responsibilities using power or action words. If you don't want the employer to contact your current employer, briefly explain your reasoning why. So you always want to be able to allow them to contact that employer, just showing that you left on a good note. And your reason for leaving, that's a tricky question because maybe you just honestly didn't like the job anymore and needed to want to take a position that's better paid and kind of better. So you would just, you can put position not available anymore. I know a lot of you guys did summer jobs, and so when you're putting those on the application, they're short time length, but you can just put on there seasonal, and that'll let them know that was just a summer job. That was just a seasonal thing I did, which is another appropriate reason to leave the job. If your reason for leaving the job was that you got fired, then that might not be something, might not be an experience or an employer's contact information you want to put on that application. I wouldn't. But moving on, foreign languages. So any foreign languages you can speak, read, or write. This will give you a competitive edge. I don't speak any foreign languages, but if you did, that's something that you'll want to highlight on there. Organizations, list membership of any professional or civic organization. Have memberships in organizations demonstrates your leadership abilities and desire to cooperate with others as a team player. Be mindful to exclude any of those that may disclose your race, color, religion, or national origin if you believe that can impact you negatively. So anyway, basically saying list your membership of any clubs you were in. I know we had some interns that were involved in sports in their high school, the wrestling team. I know we have some Air Force, ROTC people. I know we have some that were just in, the Exceptional Warriors clubs or different clubs that were offered at your high schools. Anything where you were on a team, even the Special Olympics, anything where you were on a team makes you look like a team player. And every employer wants to hire a team player. Now, keep in mind, just like it says here about, those organizations disclosing any, religious affiliations, keep in mind if you did say Special Olympics, that is a bit of a disclosure and a disability there by saying you're involved with that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Specialized skills. List any specialized skills you have or equipment you operate. Your specialized skills can give you an extra edge that lands you the job, especially those when the skill applies to the company's needs. Disclaimer, signature, block 19. Disclaimer and signature, both are required because they provide disclaimers for dishonest answers and indicate the penalties in cases of intentional misstatements, lies on the application form. That's why we are not going to do that. We don't need to. So, a signed application form proves authorization for the employer to conduct a background check and make the conditions of employment based on drug test results. That might be something you have to go through to get hired, a background check and a drug test. That's pretty common. Your signature is proof you understand the company's need to complete several more steps to move forward in the selection process. Note, you'll find an example of an employment application on the following page. You can also download the employment application package at newbeginning.com. So again, here's the example application the book is giving us. It's very similar to the one I'm going to go over with you guys as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close up my book here and get started in our activity today. I don't think I'm going to make it under an hour, guys. I'm sorry. I do try not to talk so much. Really. Okay. So go ahead and pull out your packet. Get pen or pencil. This sample application, it's from our Hey Get a Job series. So at the top you'll see section 2, all those blanks. So get out this application. I know yours is blank. It should not look like mine. This is just me showing you as we go. So get out that sample application. I know you have 2 more. I gave you a Baskin-Robbins one and a GameStop one. I'm going to do the Baskin-Robbins one tomorrow just to give us extra practice. And that GameStop one, I know some of you guys have already completed that one. So I really want to save that GameStop one for you to complete independently on your own, just to kind of allow you to see how you did without the walkthroughs that I'm giving. So go ahead and grab out, I know I gave you the choice on the daily lessons, but sorry. Go ahead and grab this one out, sample application. And your resume. So pen, sample application, and resume. Cold. All right, so when you have that, we are going to begin with our first section here. Sorry, I have a blank piece of paper I would like to use for this because I don't want to give it the information to you all at once. I'll just use my whiteboard. Okay. So I'm going to use this because I want you guys to see where I am, and 2, I just want to make sure, we're taking it piece by piece. Eating a sandwich, we don't shove the whole thing in our mouth, right? We take bites. So that's what we're going to be doing here on our application. Alrighty. So first thing, personal information, your name. So everyone go ahead and complete that. But before you do, make sure capitalizing the first letter of your name. Make sure you put your last name first. It's kind of confusing to say, but your last name first here, then your first name, then middle. The reason I wrote out my middle name here is because it just said middle. It didn't say M-I, which is middle initial. So if you ever see it's just an M.I, there's a lot of acronyms on these applications that we'll be using and have to read. So M.I, that stands for middle initial. So for me, my middle initial, if my middle name is Braswell, that used to be my last name before I got married, but if my middle name is Braswell, my middle initial would be B, right? And I would just put that. So anyway, we'll get to that. Just wanted to kind of explain a little bit there. It's not erasing very nicely. Okay, here's my blank sheet of paper. We're back. All right, so now that everyone has their name, hopefully, then what you're doing, look at that resume, and next complete your address. And I'm going to point out a few things here with addresses. So you want to begin with your street number of where you live. So look on that resume, exactly how it's, there on your resume. You want to start with it like that. So put your number. This is, of course, not my address. It's a fake address. I wouldn't put that on YouTube, right? It's private information. But 123 Foster Street. I want you guys to notice here how I abbreviated street. These are, if you haven't noticed already, especially those of us who write really big, we don't have a lot of room. So you want to abbreviate different areas. That's something I kind of disagreed with on the book. So if you have, like, let's see, what are some others? Circle, you can abbreviate with CIR. Lane could be abbreviated. Road could be abbreviated. So these are just some ideas of some ways. If you have circle in your address, you can abbreviate that as capital CIR dot, lane, capital LN dot, road, capital RD dot. So just different ways we can abbreviate. Court, you can abbreviate to CT. So just keep that in mind. Getting fancy with my whiteboard now. Watch out. All right. So you should have your addresses now. If you have an apartment, make sure to put that apartment as well. Very important. And then put your city. So North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, Ladson, put that right there. Make sure to capitalize. If you're in North Charleston, you can just put the N dot. That'll save you some space there. Or Mount, MT dot, and abbreviate that. And then put your, oh, no, I put my zip code. I should have put my state. Okay, so don't do what I just did. Oh, doggone it, I don't have any whiteout. Okay, so don't do what I did. I did not read the directions correctly. So, sorry about that. You are putting South Carolina. Whew. State SC. So you don't have to write out the whole state. South Carolina is pretty long. So you can just write capital SC. Whew. And that is why you would ask for 2 paper applications for when you make that mistake. It's embarrassing. Okay, here we go. Phone number. Put your phone number here, a way that they can reach you. If it's not, then a parent they can reach. But you want to put the phone number here. Always put the area code. Our area code here in Charleston is 843. Yours might be something different. But put that area code in those parentheses. And then the first 3 numbers dashed and the last 4 numbers. So what I commonly see here interns do is they kind of clunk it all together, or they'll put like 4 numbers here and 3 numbers here. So just make sure it's 3 digits for your area code, 3 for your first few digits, that little dash, a little hyphen, and then the last 4 is the format your phone number should be in. All right, and please, this is definitely, because I'm trying to not make this the longest video in the world. That would actually be kind of cool, but maybe not. Filling out applications. I'm trying to kind of go through this, so this is definitely a lesson where you're going to pause me, especially because I don't stop talking. So if you need to pause me to complete any of this, please, I would expect you to do so. This is a very heavy pause activity. So pause if you need more time with each of these areas. And just a quiet time to do it. Referred by. I put walk-in on mine. What it's telling you to is you can just put online or newspaper, however you heard about the job. Also, if you heard about this job through me or through your VR counselor, you could put our name there. But walk-in is just, I just walked in. So it's just kind of like a generic referred by response there. Employment desired. So here, don't put sales assistant if you're not wanting to work in retail. I know some of us are, so that I put that out there for you guys. But some of us want to do dishwasher, server, custodian. So put that position, again, look on that resume, look in that area, your objective, and see what your job you're applying for there. So date, you can start. I know the book said immediately. Another one you can put is ASAP, A-S-A-P. That stands for as soon as possible. So that basically means immediately. I could fit that in better, so I put that. So you could put immediately if you're available, or you could put ASAP. If you're not, again, you need to put that 2 weeks in with your current employer. Put that date 2 weeks from now. And then salary desired, everybody with our experience here at Project Search, feel confident. Everyone, with our skills, we can at least do $8 after completing an internship per hour. If you have a job where you make more than that, you'll want to put what you currently make. Or you can put negotiable. If, honestly, I just want something, which, might be a good play too. Okay, so that's your personal information section. We're going to move down here to our education. Let me move my screen a little bit here so I can make sure I'm getting this big enough for you guys. All right. So our education, I put Wando in mine because most of our interns came there, so I just wanted to throw out to you guys. But Burke High School, West Ashley High School, you're going to put the name in this box. Just trying to get around here to see. But just make sure what you're doing is that you're capitalizing the name. So Burke, make sure you have a capital B, West Ashley, capital W here as well as Wando. And that you're capitalizing high school. Those are 2 words. And then what it's asking for, it's asking for the name and then city and state. So again, I abbreviated Mount for Mount Pleasant, NT dot, and then put South Carolina. You know, if you're downtown Charleston, South Carolina, West Ashley would be Charleston, South Carolina too. North Charleston for the School of the Arts students. All right, so do that, fill in that section. And then date attended. So I actually, on mine, I put, I abbreviated August, AUG. So, and again, don't copy mine. This is you. So this is just an example. So what year was it when you were a freshman? So think about that. It might have been 2015. It might have been earlier. So what date were you a freshman? When did you start at your high school? And put that. You started in August. We all know that. But what year is going to vary. But we did all end, and I put August 2015 too. So put that little hyphen there. June 2019. Okay, so this might be different. Let me get my real good pointer out here. This might be different of what year you started in August. But this, for all of us, is going to be the same. Sorry for my funky capital J's. We all ended in June 2019. Did you graduate? Yes. And put on here that you earned a district credential. I'll hold that a little closer so you can see how to spell that. And so I can secretly take a sip of coffee. Fabulous. Okay, great job. Pause it if you need more time. So it has college, so we don't have that experience, so we're just going to keep moving here. And it says other. So this is a great opportunity to highlight, and we really want to make sure we're finding those opportunities to highlight our project search experience, because that's going to be really big. That's like college experience for us. So it says other, so hey, that means put project search in there. So I put project search North Charleston because that is the location of the hotel. And this will be the information here will be the same for all of us. So yeah, go ahead and copy till your heart's content there in the other. Project search North Charleston, South Carolina, August 2019 to present. No, you haven't graduated yet, and that present basically states that, because that means you're still doing it. So you can put no, but I just put here too, certificate of completion is what we are going to earn afterwards, after our completion. So copy that, pause if you need more time. And we're going to move on to the bottom here. I guess it would make more sense if I covered up the top. So, skills and activities. I've thrown up some examples here that I know you guys have. I know some of us, we've been in clubs at our schools. Sorry about that little extra tail I gave my B. But Exceptional Warriors Club, if that was something you did in high school. Also, if you were on a ROTC, or I even put wrestling team, put that if you have that. Those are some great, I just threw out some examples. So don't copy this unless you were actually involved in these, which I know only certain of us were. But these are just some examples that I put there in some special skills in our activity. So get creative with that. You know, what volunteer experience have you done? Look on your resume. What other organizations did we put there on your resume and extracurricular? So once you fill all that in, we're going to go down here. It might be a good time to pause. We're going to go down here to, do you speak another language? None. I put none. I don't speak another language. And also, have you served in the military? This is not talking about ROTC. This is actually like, did you actually sign up and get in the military? So none on both of those would apply to us. Oh, I just hit an hour. All right. I tried. I did. I really did. But good news. We're on our last page, so we're almost done. Okay. So next is physical record. This is typically not a section, but hey, like I said, all applications are different, so it may be, you may see this. You'll really probably find it at a job where you do have to do a lot of physical tasks. So here we go. Were you ever injured? Okay. Have I ever been injured? Yes. I totally broke my arm in the 3rd grade. Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect my ability to work. Okay? So unless it affects your capabilities of lifting 30 pounds or walking or just general things we can do with our bodies, you would put no. It's okay. You don't have to tell them you sprained your ankle, in 6th grade. That's not really what that's asking for. It's asking, do you have to use a chair to be mobile? Do we need to think about lifting restrictions with you? Some of us might. So think about that. But on mine, I'm just going to put no. Have you ever... Oh, wait. Have you any deficits in learning? When I'm trying to read backwards, yes. So, okay. So think about this. Do you have any deficits? So you would be disclosing, if you were disclosing any deficits here. Deficits mean area of need. This would be a disclosure type question. If you believe that, I do have enough of a deficit in speech or vision or hearing that, I do want to go ahead and address that right front in the application, go right ahead. Feel free to do that. If you don't think it's going to affect you so much with your position, then you can put no. But some of us, we really might think about that question. And again, it's your choice on these applications. All right, then this is another important area. Don't put John Carr for yours. He's my husband. So in case of emergency contact, so why employers want this emergency contact information is because in case you get hurt or if something happens to you, they want to be able to notify somebody in your family. So my closest person in my family, it's probably going to be someone you live with. My closest person is my husband. So that's why I put my husband's information there. You might put a parent's information in there, a grandparent's, just somebody, if you got hurt, you'd want them to know about it. Also, make sure you put in a good number for them. Of course, this is not my husband's number because this is going on YouTube, but put in that number for them where they can be reached. So look in your phones, look that up, look for your parents, your mom, dad's, information there and put their address. It didn't ask for city and state, so I just put that. So that's a very important section to kind of go ahead and pinpoint and think about who is your emergency contact. And if you don't know who your emergency contact is, ask me. I'll tell you. Because I probably have a good idea of who is. And most of us, like I said, it's our parents. So go ahead and fill that information out. And then we're going to move on to employment history. Let me sneak what I did here. Oh, I messed up. That's what I did. Okay, so employment history. So I didn't put too much here because, excuse me. There we go. All right. I didn't put too much here because it's really going to vary with each of you. So what I want you guys to do here to make this easy on you is to look at your resumes. Look at those resumes. We made sure that when we did our employment history and when we did our work experiences on our resumes, that we put from most recent to oldest. So what you would do here is, I know it only has 2 experiences. Typically, applications have more. But this one only has 2, which is fine. just put your most recent one. So if you're currently working somewhere, that one goes up top, then the one before that. So put your ones you did most recently to this date. So then you would complete, don't do what I did here. I wrote that again just because you don't put the date right here, you put from to. So when you started, when you ended, okay? And I just put an example of how we're listing those dates. You don't have to know the exact day, you just know the month and the year, typically. So again, good thing we did those resumes because it has all those dates in there, so use those. I know they might not be in number form, but just remember January, February, March. So just think about, whatever number those months are, that's the number that they represent. So January is 1, February 2, March 3, April 4, May 5. Should I just keep going? June 6, July 7, August 8, September 9, October 10. I don't have enough fingers now. November 11, December 12. Those are the numbers that those months represent. That was kind of silly. Losing it here on week 2. All right. I've already lost it. You guys know that. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to let go of my paper here. References. These are not just because I'm one. These are important people that are going to be able to talk about you in a very good way and meaningful way. So I went ahead, since we haven't really gotten to our list of references yet, and that's something that we are actually going to be doing coming up here on day 8. We're going to be getting a list of references. I've given you some examples. So references, we want to make sure are adults. I know some of us have awesome friends. Well, they're great friends, but they're not a reference. Okay, so we want adults. We really try not to use our family members. This is just because you want to look, if you use a family member, it comes off a little, I'll be honest, it kind of just comes off a little like, of course your parent's going to say something great about you, right? They're all, of course they're going to think you're the best worker in the world. They don't want a family member that has the same last name. They really want someone who has worked with you. So I put here, teacher, me. I'd be happy to be all of your reference. Your VR counselor. I know some of us, Adria is not our VR counselor, but I just put her because she is and she has helped a lot of people here. And then, of course, Tiffany Curry, I put as our job coach from VR as well. So these are all adults. All of y'all have had experience working with. So you can just go ahead and in this references box, just copy what I have put down here. So in the references, it's asking for the name and occupation. So it's asking for my name. You want to use my first and last name, and then what my job is. So basically, how do you know this person? So I'm your teacher. And then you would put address. So what I put here, of course, being on YouTube, I didn't want to put my actual address. I'll give that to you privately. And I didn't want to put phone numbers for everybody here. So these are fake as well. But I just want to get you guys in the habit of completing this. So just keep copying. But the address, this is sometimes your reference will give you not their personal address, but the address to their work. So this is Charleston County District's address I gave you here, 75 Calhoun Street, Charleston 29405. Same thing with vocational rehabilitation. I didn't give you, of course, Ms. Cooper and Nesbitt's personal address or Tiffany's personal address. I gave you Voc Rehab's address. So that's something common that a reference might do too, to keep it business. Then their phone number, of course, in that same phone number format, and then years known. So some of you have known me as many as 4 if you went to Wando, but most of us have, just known me 1 year. Your reference, you want to make sure you at least have known for 1 year. So just put 1 right here. I know it hasn't technically been over a year, but close. We'll count it. So put 1 year for me if this is your first year with me. Put 4 if it's not, or 5, however, I can't even remember. Let's see. And then Miss Cooper Nesmith, however many years she's been your VR counselor. If she's not your VR counselor, again, here, put 1. And then Tiffany Curry, we'll all put 1 for her. But just take a second. If you need to pause, definitely do that so you can copy all of this information. trying to hold it where it focuses right, but hopefully you found a good place to pause to copy all that. Because I'm going to move on here and wrap it up here with this area I've talked about at the very bottom. It's going to be easy to complete, but it's really, really important, okay? And I want you guys to understand the importance of it. So this is where, remember, we said to be truthful on your application. This is where that's talking about. Every application is going to have a disclaimer at the end of it that basically you're agreeing with your signature on a legal document that all of this information you presented is correct. So I'm going to read it real quick, and it'll be different on different applications, but it's pretty much saying the same thing. I authorize investigation of all statements contained in this application. I understand that misrepresentation, lying, or omission of facts, not giving things that they need to know, called on is cause for dismissal. That means not being hired. Further, I understand and agree that my employment is for no definite period, and I may, regardless of the date of payment of my wages and salary, be terminated at any time without previous notice. That means if they do take this application, interview you, hire you, and then find out, oh, some of this stuff isn't true, they can let you go from that job. So that's just an important little part you need to be aware of what you're signing there. So maybe your signature looks like mine, kind of crazy, and just a few little scratches here. Or maybe you want to write it out in manuscript. That's fine too. However you do your signature, it's personal to you. And then put the date today, the day that you completed this. I don't know why I put the 24th is actually my anniversary, so maybe that's why I put that. But that is not the date I completed it. But anyway, put today's date. Hopefully you're more aware of today's date than I was when I completed this. All right. So go back, pause if you needed to go back to any of that to complete. Otherwise, that was day 5. Yay. Sorry, it's over an hour again. But I want to say thank you guys so much. I know this has taken a lot of flexibility from me and you to do these online lessons. And for those of you who are doing them and communicating with me about that, thank you so much. That just shows that you were able to, obviously adapt to a lot of different things going on in the world right now and different ways that we're learning. So great job. Please let me know if you have any questions. 10 to 11 Monday through Friday are my business hours, but you guys know you can reach out to me whenever if you need. Also parents as well. Checked in. I called a lot on Friday last week, and if I didn't get a hold of you, I'll definitely be trying back again. I just want to make sure everyone's doing okay first and foremost, and I'm just making sure we all have everything that we need. So miss you guys as always. Don't forget to do your employability log. Yay, our employability log. Remember this. Make sure we're doing those chores around the house, dusting, cleaning windows, vacuuming, laundry, all those good things, folding clothes. So all those good things we're doing there. So I look forward to seeing you for day 6, and we're going to continue doing job applications, and I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon, morning, night, and I'll see you again soon.